Hello and welcome to Gospel Keys Urban Pro 600. My name is Jonathan Powell and I'm the head moderator of HearAndPlayZone.com as well as the head music consultant for HearAndPlay.com. I count it a blessing and a privilege to be able to be your instructor and host for today and take you step by step and teach you how to play contemporary gospel music by ear with more so a West Coast feel. Now, when I say West Coast feel, what I mean is people on the East Coast, like New York, specifically Chicago, their style is a lot different from the West Coast because a lot of people over there do a lot of runs and they're more open with their chords. Now, over here, California, Arizona, and more so over here, we actually play different, and how we play different are our chords are more close together, they're more close, as well as we don't do as many runs as them, but it's more so a feel of how we play the keys and little things that we play in between our chords. So it's a lot different, but you will see by the end of the tape how different it is. I've been blessed to sit under some of the most anointed musicians around. They've played for a lot of the top gospel artists that you hear today on the radio, gospel radio, like Karen Clark, Kurt Carr, Norman Hutchins, So I count it a blessing to be able to have been up under those cats, but also I've been through the school of hard knocks too as well. So pretty much the reason why I've been able to sit up under them is because I went out there and I had a drive and I really wanted it so bad. So God blessed me because I wanted it so bad to be able to sit up under those cats and be able to grasp the knowledge that they have. And right now I'm just happy that I can be able to share this with you today. So I got about 8 years of experience playing the piano and I learned at a pretty accelerated rate. And I just want to share my information with you and help you to take your gift to the next level. So within these next couple hours, we're going to go over so much material. So don't get too comfortable. Take off your shoes, but make sure you have a pen, some paper, TiVo Americano, if that's what you want to see. You don't have time right now. TiVo that, get your favorite breakfast, get a glass of Kool-Aid, get your favorite snack. In this next couple hours, we're going to get busy. Let's get urban. Now, before we get started, I have to say this one thing. This video is for people that have already been playing and have experience and know fundamental things like their scales, all their basic chords. So basically, we're going to build on top of that. So that is your foundation. So we're going to build on top of your foundation and take you to the next level. So if you don't know your basic scales and your basic chords, don't get me wrong, you can learn from this video, but I know there are going to be some spots in this video where you're going to get lost. So if you get lost, you would go back to a Gospel Keys 101, Gospel Keys 202, and get some foundation because it's only going to help you in the long run. You don't want to be a musician that can play a lot of sweet chords, but can't play anything simple. So we want to avoid that. So before we get started, that's what I want to let you know. So first off, the first thing that I'm going to teach you, we're going to start in the key of A flat. And what I'm going to show you is off of every tone of the scale of A flat, I'm going to teach you a chord. So off of A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, and A flat. Of course, you know the scale. One more time. The scale of A flat. A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, and A flat. Now, off of every tone of the scale, I'm going to show you a variety of chords that you can use. And if you want to play urban, these are the chords that you really need to know to play the urban style and contemporary style of gospel music. Also, the most important thing is chord progressions. Now, you're going to have all the possible urban chords. Not all, you're going to have a lot. You're going to have a nice variety of different chords that you can use, but I'm going to teach you how to use them in chord progressions. And that's very important. Placement is the best thing that you can have. If you understand how to place chords, that is the name of the game. You can have some of the sweetest chords, but if you don't know how to use them, you can really mess up a song or, you won't get any gigs. So really, having sweet chords is great, but you got to know how to play them. So I'm going to take you through chord progressions and show you how to use a lot of the chords that I show you, most of them. So pretty much, that's in a nutshell everything that we're going to go over. So I'm tired of talking. I'm ready to get started. Let's get urban. now we're going to get started, but the first thing I'm going to show you is the A flat scale again. Now, we looked at it as notes, but this time we're going to look at each individual note of the scale as numbers. Now, this is important because when you talk about chord progressions work off the tones of the scale, but as numbers. So if you have a 2-5-1 in the scale of A flat, let's say the scale is C, okay? You know pretty much the scale is C. Okay, C is the 1, D is the 2, E is the 3, F is the 4, G is the 5. Now let's only take those first 5 notes because we're talking about a 2-5-1. So these are the first 5 notes of the scale. So when I say 2-5-1, okay, let's count. 1, 2, that's the D. The 5 would obviously be the last one that we hit, the G, and the 1 will obviously be the first one that we hit. So that's how you pretty much pick out a chord progression of any scale. So since we're going to be in A flat, you would take that same concept and just apply it to the A flat scale. So, okay, all the notes of the A flat scale one more time. Okay, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, and A flat. Okay, that's the scale. You know, you should know that if you are at this level. So if we look at it as numbers, okay, A flat would obviously be the 1, B flat would be the 2, C would be the 3rd or the 3, D flat would be the 4, E flat would be the 5. So what's next? F. F will be the 6, G will be the 7, and A flat will be the 1. It would basically just start all over again. Okay, now we're going to get started. We're past all the fundamentals once again. Now I'm going to show you the basic chords off of every tone, and we're going to start with A flat. Now the basic chord of A flat is what? You should know it, okay? Bass A flat, chord, root chord, A flat, C, E flat. Now that is the absolute basic way to play, the root chord off of A flat. Now, if you want to make it urban, we're starting off simple. We're gonna graduate and get more complex. I don't want you to just see sweet chords. I want you to have an understanding of what you're playing. So we're going to see the basics first, and then we're going to build off of that. But I'm going to go pretty fast, so you won't get bored. Okay, I took you through the basic A flat chord. Now we're going to get started with just learning an A flat major 7th. That would be the next level. Starting to get that urban sound. Okay, so A flat major 7th would be A flat, C, E flat, that's the root chord, and then you just add the major 7th to that, and that gives you this sound. Now, most of the time, there's a secret. Most of the time, if you have A flat in your left hand in the bass, you don't always have to have it in the chord because it's going to create tension. So say like you want to play it like this. It has a little tension in it. And you want it to sound open, and you want it to have a clearer sound. So since you're playing A flat in your bass, take it out of the chord. And it sounds more open. There's less notes, but it sounds a lot more clear. So you can take that same chord and invert it. So since you took the A flat out, you just have a C, E flat, and G, which is a C minor chord, but over A flat, but it's still an A flat major 7. So you can play it like C, E flat, G, E flat, G, C, G, C, E flat. Okay, now let's build from there. Now, let's add a 9 to it. Now the 9 is the B flat. Now if you use the number system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then when you get to A flat, it starts all over. So from this octave to this octave, it is 1 through 8. And then from this octave to this octave, it's 8 through 16. Most of the time, when you're playing a 2, it's most of the time a 9. And most of the time when you're playing a 4, it's called 11th. And most of the time when you're playing 6, it's called a 13th. So that's just get that grounded in your head, and you won't get lost anywhere. Okay? So basically, we're going to start with that A flat 9 chord. Okay? So we're just going to add to the 7. And the 9, we already said that is B flat. So So this was the 7th. Remember, we took that A flat out, and now we're adding the 9. Okay? Now, I love this chord because there are a number of different ways that you can voice this chord. You can voice it like this. So basically, in your left hand, you would have G, B flat, and C. And in your right hand, you would have E flat, G, and B flat. Basically, an E flat triad. Now you can take this chord and invert it whatever way you would want, but however you want the sound to come across, you can invert it. So keep this as the root chord. So basically, just hold this chord, the A flat 9, in your left hand, and you can build by just playing the E flat triad, because this is basically the root that we're starting with for the 9. I'm going to show you this. So basically, if you want to add and just play a lot, it's going to sound like you're doing a lot of chords, but you're playing the same chord. Just the melody note is going to be different. So keep this chord in your left hand, the A flat 9, and then you can just invert the E flat major triad chord in your right. Okay, now that's off of A flat. Now I'm going to show you a little trick to give that chord a whole lot more flavor. And it's real simple, and it's very simple, but it adds so much more flavor to it. And it's a little grace note that you play, and this one note, you give it a quick flicker, just a half a second faster than you hit the chord. Right before you hit the chord, you hit this one note, and it gives it a lot of flavor, just like this. And this is used in a lot of West Coast songs, Judy McAllister, songs like to Do in the Morning. You hear that a lot. So basically, you can take that, and basically the right hand is really doing all the work. Basically, your left hand is just going to hold the chord down, and basically there's 3 different ways you can play this chord with that pivot. You can slide like this in your right hand. Okay, basically, you know that this is a knife, and you're playing the E flat chord in your right. So basically, you would just slide from F to G really quick. Just flicker F. Hit F right before you hit the chord. So basically, hit F right before. Do it fast. Faster. And when you hit the chord, it just sounds so much fuller. And that's most commonly used, and that's what really gives the West Coast a lot of its feel, are those little grace notes in between the chords. And that's what I said. Remember, I said that we do little things in between our chords, and that's an example of one of the things we do. And there are a few different ways that we do that, and different type of chords involve a different type of feel. Okay, now there's a number of different ways you can play this one chord, and it has the same type of West Coast feel, urban, contemporary gospel feel. So now I'm going to reiterate. In your left hand, the chord is being rooted, and you're padding basically with this chord. It's not changing constantly, and we're still on that A flat 9, right? All right, so basically in your right hand, you're going to play basically an E flat chord. Now, we already established that you can play it like this with the grace note in between it. Now, the grace note doesn't change. The only thing you're going to change is the inversion of the E flat chord. We're going to move on to the first inversion in your right hand. So this is still an A flat major 9. Remember that? But I'm just reiterating that in your left hand. Just remember, if you play A flat major 9, you can play this in your left hand, but think about a triad in your right. Okay, now I'm going to repeat again. This is still an A flat major 9, but most of the time, usually all the time when you're playing urban music and basically this type of style, you're going to play the root in your left hand, which would be the A flat 9. You're going to always play that in your left. At A flat 9, you don't have to play the A flat because it's in the bass. So you're going to just play this in your left hand, and you're always going to play a triad in your right hand. So the triad that we're going to play is an E flat triad. So basically, think about it like this. Just think about, you're going to play, if we're in A flat, whatever the 5th note of A flat is, that's the triad that you're always going to play in your right hand. So since we're playing an A flat major 9, okay, the fifth of A flat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is E flat. So you would play an E flat major triad chord in your right, and you would basically play the A flat 9 in your left hand and the E flat chord in your right. But it's still an A flat major 9. It's just voiced differently. It has the same notes. It repeats. So you have 2 B flats, you have 2 G's. It's still a 9, you know? So basically that's one way to play it. Now that you know you have a triad in your right hand, I'm going to show you different ways to invert that triad, and you're going to play the same grace note that gives it that flavor, that little it feels so good. You're going to keep that in your chord. So basically you're just going to invert the chord, invert that same chord, the E flat triad, to first inversion. But the fingering is a little different. Instead of playing it like you would normally play it with the 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 5, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 5, you would play the 2. Your second finger would play the G. Your third finger will play the B flat. Fifth finger will play the E flat. And this gives you room to be able to still flicker that same grace note, that F. So basically, it's still the same thing. You would flicker it, give it a little flicker, about a half second before you hit the chord. So hit this one note right before you hit the chord. So it's the same thing, and you still play the A flat 9 in your left hand. This is the first one, remember? That's the melody. And this one, I can't sing, but you know what I'm trying to do. Just demonstrate, okay? So you have those two. And the same concept goes for the second inversion. You're going to keep the same A flat 9 in your left hand. You're going to invert the chord up once again. And you're going to play the B flat with your thumb, E flat with your third finger, G with your pinky, and this leaves this ring finger to be able to flicker that F. So F is the grace note every single time. So, and on this particular one, you don't really have to play the E flat if you don't want to, because it's kind of awkward, but it just depends on what sounds you want to get. But that's basically the A flat major 9. So let's move on past that inversion. Now this is simple. Since you already have the foundation of that 9 chord, this is the only thing you have to do, and it's real easy, and it changes the sound of the chord. All you have to do in your left hand is, you see this G right here? All you have to do is move it over to F. So all you have to do is change one note in the chord, and that would be the G in your left hand. So usually you play it like this in your left hand, but all you have to do is change that one G to F. So basically now you have an A flat major 9, and you're adding a 13th. So you have an A flat major 9, add 13th. Everything else in the chord remains the same. The left hand is the only thing that changes. So basically the triad that I showed you, the E flat triad, in every inversion. And I don't mind spelling the chord out for you one more time with the little change that we added. Okay, so since we're playing F, B flat, C, and E flat. And then your right hand, you don't have to play the E flat with your left hand. I'm sorry. You can just play the E flat triad chord in your right. And add that grace note in between. And then now when you move up in inversion, now your left hand can play that E flat. And you still play that grace note from the F. And then you move up another inversion to the second inversion of E flat major. And you have a whole nother sound. So this is the first chord. And this is the second chord. Different voicing, just a slight difference. These all could be used over A flat, okay? So now let's get into another chord, man. I have so many chords to show you. I'm so excited because I'm basically gonna empty out everything from my own closet, my tool shed, that my secrets that I have, I'm gonna share them with you, and I hope this will help you take you to another level. So let's go to an A flat 13, okay? Now, this is most commonly used, when you're in a service and, it's getting hot, that type of thing, but it could be used in more than one way besides that. And there's a number of different voicings that you can use to play that chord, okay? So basically an A flat 13th, okay, let's say. A flat in your left hand always. And like I said, whenever you're playing A flat in your left hand, you do not have to play the A flat in the chord. So you have G flat, you have B flat, you have D flat, and you have F, okay? That is the A flat 13th, okay? So basically, to add to this chord and give it more flavor, it's about triads in your right hand once again. Now, in your left hand, there's a number of different ways you can voice this chord. Let's start with the lowest you can go, okay? Okay, this is basically the A flat 13th. So in your left hand, if you're playing with a bass player or anything, you can invert the chord down. So just move the F over, release, move the D flat over, put it right here, still the same chord. Now, this is gonna give you a full, rich sound. It's all about triads in your right. Most of the time in this course, you're gonna see that the secret is triads in your right hand. Okay, so basically with this chord, we're gonna play a D flat triad. It's still gonna be an A flat 13th, okay? It's gonna be voiced with the D flat in your right hand. And now this is gonna be your ground right now. Okay, and you're going to add the grace note to this. This is the secret to my playing. I add grace notes to just about every single chord, but it gives a different type of feel. And the touch, it's different, but it sounds so good and it sounds so soothing and relaxing. So basically, the grace note would be E flat, and you hit that a split second before you hit the D flat chord. Okay? Now, there's another way you can play the chord. Play the A flat 13th in your right hand, okay, and just play the F right here. So basically, you know, there's some tension, you know, and it gives you attention. You can even do a little walk down that I love to do. That's a little secret. Basically, start on D flat, go to E flat, and you arrive at F. Okay, that's a little trick that I'm showing you a little early, you know, just to get you going. Okay, so basically that's another inversion. Okay, now let's move on to another one. Okay, now with this particular voicing, I know I said that you don't have to play A flat in your left hand because it's in the bass note, but with this particular voicing, it gives it a cool sound because it sounds full because you have so many notes close together and cluttered. So basically, there are exceptions. It depends on how you want the chord to sound, but most of the time, when you're using a particular voicing, you don't want to play whatever the bass note is. You don't most likely want to incorporate it into the chord, depending on the type of sound that comes across. So, in this voicing, you're going to play F, G flat, A flat, B flat, and then your right hand, you're going to play D flat, F, and A flat, the triad. So basically, this is the sound you get. It's almost like the first one I showed you, but it gives you a whole nother sound because you're leaving out that D flat. Okay? Now, let's move on to another one. Okay, now you can play the A flat 13th in your left hand completely, just the whole A flat 13th, the G flat, the B flat, the D flat, and the F, okay? Then you can still play that D flat root chord, the D flat, F, and A flat. So play the A flat 13 in your left, and then play the D flat chord in your right. And you can still do that grace note thing. So it sounds more open and it still sounds full. Okay? And also, the same trick as before, you can also invert your right hand, invert that triad to give it another sound too as well. Okay? Now let's start with this inversion in my left hand as far as the voicing. The F, the G flat, the A flat, and the B flat, and let's add D flat. Okay? Now we're going to add, with the right hand, we're going to add the first inversion of the D flat chord. F, A flat, and D flat. But the fingering is not usual. Okay? The F will be played with the index finger. the A flat will be played with the third, and the D flat will be played with the pinky, and that leaves your thumb open to do that grace note thing with the E flat that you're doing right here. So basically, you have that sound right there. And that's the whole secret to this West Coast feel, those grace notes. Okay, now you can also invert that again and invert your left hand up too. You're still going to play that A flat 13, and that's going to be the root always in your left hand. It doesn't matter what inversion you play it. Commonly, these are the three you can practice, so you can just practice like this, just to get your fingers used to playing it in your left hand. You see I'm leaving out the A flat because you don't always have to leave it out, but you can add it just in case you want to practice getting that feel into your chord too. This A flat right here. Okay, just practice over and over. Okay, so that's just to get used to the different inversions in your left hand, because depending on how you want the sound to come across, you can change up your left hand inversion and still always play the triad in your right. So you can play it like this, you can play it like this, you can play it like this. It just depends on the sound you want. So let's get the left hand going, and that's probably going to be one of the most hardest things for you is your left hand. So the chords I show you in left hand, start practicing those first, just to get your left hand used to playing chords. Most of the time, if you're just getting into, playing two-hand voice into your left hand, it's not too used to playing chords in your left hand. So I showed you the three foundations in your left hand. So basically, you can mix and match those right hand triads with those left hand different chords. So you can play it like this. You can mix the D flat major chord with your right hand. You can play it like this. You can play it like this. Or, I don't think I showed you this one, but I'm going to show you right now. Okay, you can play it like this. A flat in your thumb, D flat in your third finger, F in your pinky, and you're just going to pivot off that E flat. That's going to be your grace note. So, okay, let's play around with it. Let's move the left hand up to this inversion. The same thing, play around. It just depends on the type of sound you want to get. Okay, now let's move on to the third one that I showed you in your left hand. Okay, now it's kind of like you're doubling up. It's going to be the same thing. This is the A flat 13, but you still see that D flat triad in your right hand. Okay, so it's just going to build from there. And you still see it right here, D flat, F, A flat, and you're still inverting it, right here, okay, now let's move on to another chord that you can do off of A flat, okay, urban chord. Now this is also another passing chord that is most commonly used to go to the 4. Okay, in your left hand, you would play A flat in your pinky, G flat in your thumb. That's if you're playing by yourself without a bass player. Okay, and in your right hand, you would play C, F, and B flat. One more time. Your left hand, A flat, G flat. Right hand, C, F, and B flat. And there's a trick to this chord as well. You can pivot one note or give that grace note, flicker that one note to give it a little flavor, okay? And that would be the E flat. And you'll hit that E flat right before you hit this chord. So it'll be like, let me do it slow. Let's speed it up. The left hand. Okay, that's that chord. Now, this chord is based off this root chord right here. Okay? It's a boring bluesy type of chord. Basically, it's the same, almost the same as the A flat 13, but you're just lowering the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the A flat scale to C. And then we end up with this voicing. So this is also a passing chord to get to D flat. And also with this chord, you can pivot or give it that grace note feel too also. And that is, like I said, is the key to this style. So basically that note that you would flicker would be the B flat right before you get to C. So actually you would hit, this is the chord, but you would let go of that B flat right before you hit the chord. Okay? So let me do it slow. Let me speed it up. And most of the time this chord is used as a, you know, building up the service. Or it can also be used as a passing chord, what I'm going to get into, but I just want to give you an example to get to that 4, okay? So that's another chord that you can use off the A flat. I have so many chords. I don't think we're going to be here on this A flat for a while. Okay, let's go to another one, okay? Now, with the chord I just showed you, you're going to play that as the root chord in your left hand. So you remember I said this chord, G flat, C, F, B flat, right? Okay? Now, in your left hand, you're going to play that G flat, C, and F. And you can, if you want, you can add the B flat too. Okay? Just depends on the sounds you want. And in your right hand, remember I said, it's all about triads in your right hand. Most of the time with this particular style, with the urban and contemporary style of gospel music, it's always a triad. The left hand is most of the time playing the root of the chord, and your right hand is playing some type of triad. Okay? So your left hand is going to play G flat, B flat, C, and F. And your right hand can play a F major triad. Okay? So your left hand doesn't have to play the F right now because your thumb is going to play the F because of the triad. And then your third finger is going to play A. Fifth finger is going to play C. So this is the sound that you get. Okay? Now, you can also invert this one triad and it gives it a whole nother sound. So really the name of the game is taking these voicings and being able to recognize them by ear gives you freedom to flow with them as you would like. And it sounds like you have so many chords, but it's really the same one. And the trick is you're just changing the chord in your right, and most of the time your left hand is always going to play the same chord, okay? It just depends on the sound that you want to come across, and the more and more you fool around with it, the more you know how to place it, you know, in certain songs. But I'm going to get into chord progressions too. I'm just getting all these chords out the way so you can have some fat chords under your belt, okay? Now let's get back to the board. Okay, so in your left hand, play the G flat, B flat, C, F. Now, we already got past this. Now, like I said, it's all about grace notes as well. So the grace note in this chord would be the G. So now that you see that we've went through a lot of chords, you should see that commonly the grace note is always the second note in the root chord. Basically what I'm saying is, say, for example, okay, the F triad. Now, if you think about an F triad, the F would be the 1, the A would be the 3rd, and the C would be the 5. Now, the 2 would be the G, if you're thinking about an F scale. Okay, so the 2 would be the G. So anytime you pivot, it's always going to be, most of the time, the second. Okay, right now. And we're going to get into more of those slides and things like that, of course, to give it that urban and contemporary feel. Okay, so right now, we're talking about just the 2. So if you're playing the F triad, you're going to pivot off that 2. And also, you can invert this a number of different ways, just like all the rest. It's all about triads, and it's all about inversions in your right hand and your left hand, depending on what type of chords you're playing. You're going to play this chord in your left hand. And then your right, you're going to play the first inversion of that F major triad, okay? And it's not played the normal way, normal fingering with the 1, 2, and the 5. And your thumb, you're going to play, you're going to flicker off that G, which is the second. So you're going to leave that G, you're going to leave your thumb open to be able to hit that. So you're going to start with your index finger on A. And then your third finger is going to play the C. And your fifth finger is going to play the F. Okay, you see that? All right, so now we're going to play the chord. Okay, and now together. And you're still flickering that G. Okay, right before the chord. So in order to master this style, the main thing that you're going to have to work on is your left hand and also those little slides. And that's what gives this the urban, this West Coast flavor. That's what we do. We give those little grace notes in between each chord. Okay, basically I'm just playing around, but every chord you hear is some type of grace note. Basically, you know, I'm just playing around with certain chords. So I'm going to get into a lot of different things that you could do. Okay, so you can also invert the F chord up again. Okay, to C, F, and A. And you're still pivoting that same G the second. So basically, C in your thumb, F with your third, A with your fifth, and then your fourth finger is hitting that G right before the chord. Now, this might be the hardest inversion to do because for most people, the weakest fingers are the pinky and the ring finger. So I would recommend that you do some fingering exercises. Now, the fingering exercises that you can do to work on these are handing. So Google it. It's pretty easy to find on the web, handing exercises. And they work on speed and dexterity for your fingers. And they have a lot of exercises that work on these two in particular. The ring and the pinky. So pick it up and let's move on to the next chord. Okay, the next chord that I'm going to show you is also a passing chord that is most commonly used to go to the 4, which is D flat. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the notes, okay? Now in your left hand, you're going to play G flat and C. And in your right hand, it's a lot similar to this chord right here. But the only difference is, instead of playing this F, you're going to play E. So it gives you this sound. So most of the time it's used to go to the D flat. Let me give you an example. This is the other one. And this is the second one. Now, okay, the notes are G flat and C in your left hand, and in your right hand you have E and B flat. And you play E with your index finger and B flat with your pinky. So basically, there's another trick to this one. Basically, you pivot and you get that little grace note, but you slide chromatically down from the E flat to the E. So it's like this. Okay? And that's off of A flat. G flat, C, E, and B flat. Now, there's I don't voice this too many different ways. I changed the notes around. So I'm going to go ahead and show you another variation of this. The only thing about this one is you don't include the B flat. So pretty much there's a triad in your right hand. I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Let's look at it, okay? This next chord, you have G flat and C in your left hand. In your right hand, you have E, A, and C. It's a lot similar to this chord that one I'll show you, but the only difference is the E once again. So basically, this one is used as a passing chord as well to get to the 4, which is D flat. So like I'll play an example. And you can also slide, but this time it's pretty much a roll, and you're playing 3 notes really fast. So you're gonna roll from the D down to the E. And once you hit the E, you're hitting the chord. It's very fast. It's a trick that is used for this urban feel. And pretty much, you have G flat and C in your left hand, and you have E, A, and C. And you play E with your index finger, and you play A with your ring finger, and C with your pinky. And if you look at it closely, that's an A minor chord too as well in your right hand. So basically what you did, I said you slide from the D down to the E. So it gives you this sound. So let me use it in an example so you can see basically how to play it. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. Okay, the next chord that I'm gonna show you is a pretty simple chord, and it's fat. All these chords I'm going to show you are fat chords used in all contemporary gospel music, and pretty much once you have them, you can improvise them and use them as you would like. So another chord off of A flat would be this chord. Okay. Okay. Now let's examine that. Okay. In your left hand, you have F, A flat, and B flat. Okay, and in your right hand you have C, E flat, F, A flat, okay? So, it sounds like this. Now, a lot of times, this chord can be used in place of a regular A flat triad chord, okay? It's a regular A flat triad chord. But how I use this most of the time, just a quick example. I'm not really supposed to be getting into chord progressions, but I just want you to see a real-time example of just really how to use this chord. You know, it's not a common chord that you would hear most of the time, but I usually just bring it down a half step and bring it back up. So I'll play a group of chord progressions, and then you'll see basically how, you know, it works, okay? Bring it down a half step. Okay. So when I bring it down a half step, let me show you that. Okay. I just come down to E in my left hand, G, and A, and in my right hand I have B, D, E, and G. One more time. E, F, G, A, D, E, and G, okay? And bring it up a half step, okay? And that's off of A flat. That's one more good one, and I have a couple more for you, maybe one or two. I don't want to overload you too much, you know, we have so many chords to go over. Now this next chord is pretty simple, pretty much. It's really a C chord over A flat, okay? And how I voice it is as such. I usually play this chord when the melody line has C on top. So basically, pretty much, if there is an A flat chord like such, I would just drop this A flat down to G, and this E flat down to E, and this down to G, and this down to E again. So for example, okay, let me just spell it out for you. Okay, A flat in my left hand, E, and G in my left hand, okay? And then in my right hand, E, G, C. And if you want, you could add the C right here too as well. It depends on how full you want it to sound, but it sounds good like this as well, okay? So a perfect example on how to use this song would be like a song like As the Deer as the first chord. It's just, you wouldn't do it the first time you play it, maybe the second time around, you know, just to catch people off guard. Like. So like the second time around, instead of going straight to the A flat chord, you alone. This time play you. And I'll show you little tricks and stuff that you can do in between the chord as well, but this is pretty much an altered chord, and you can use it whenever you're playing a simple A flat chord. Just it gives it some dissonance and, you know, some flavor, and that's a part of that West Coast feel, just flipping chords and making it your own as long as you know the melody lines. Okay, this is the final chord, and this is one of the most craziest chords like that would be hard to pick out if you heard it by ear, because it sounds so cluttered and the sound that it has is just crazy. And it took me a while just to pick out this one on my own, so I'm glad to be able to share it with you, okay? And this is the chord right here. And this chord is most commonly used as a passing chord to get to D flat as well. So, the chord again, I'm gonna play it one more time. Okay? Now, this chord in your left hand, you have about 3 notes played, okay? You have A flat, E flat, and G flat, okay? In your right hand, you have A, C, D, F, and A flat. One more time. Your left hand, A flat, E flat, G flat. Right hand, A, C, D, F, and A flat, okay? And it sounds just like this. And if you're playing with a bass player, you don't have to play the A flat. If they're playing the A flat, you'll play it like that. Okay? That's how you use that chord as a passing chord as well, but I'm gonna get into that as well. So, that is the final chord for A flat. Let's move on to the next note, the next tone of the scale, which is B flat. See you at B flat. Let's get jiggy. Okay, we're finally at the next tone of the scale, B flat. We spent so much time on A flat. You know, so many different chord options that you have over A flat. Let's go on to B flat. Now, B flat is normally used to play minor chords. And we're going to start with the basic B flat minor chord. You should know this. B flat minor consists of B flat, D flat, and F. Okay, that's the root chord. In every inversion, you should know. Okay? Now, the first chord that you should learn off of B flat after B flat minor would be like a B flat minor 7. Now, okay, I'm going to tell you, just like off of the A flat, like I told you, if you're playing the B flat in the bass, you don't necessarily have to play it in the chord, okay? Okay, let's talk about why the chord major 7 is different from the minor 7. This is a major 7. You know, obviously in a minor 7, instead of playing the A, which normally would be the 7th in the major, you'll be playing the A flat. Now, why you say that? And also in the minor 7, you will be flatting the 3rd. So this is the major 7, this is the minor 7. So you're going to flat the 3rd, and you're going to flat the 7th. Okay? Now, that's just a rule in minor scales compared to major scales. You're going to flat the 3rd and the 7th. So in the scale, this is a B flat major scale. Okay? And this is a B flat minor scale. Notice the difference. Okay? And that is set. So, like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. You should know that's just in case someone is watching this video and doesn't have a clear understanding of why, you know, I'm playing a 7th chord and there are 2 different ones. Why is your major 7 A and why is your minor 7 A flat? Okay, now let's get back to the chord. Like I said, if you're playing B flat in the bass for this B flat minor 7, you don't have to have it in the chord. So basically, you're gonna play, this is still a B flat minor 7, and you're gonna play D flat, F, and A flat, which basically is a D flat major chord. Now, off of B flat, like I said, it's usually minor, so you can play this D flat chord in any inversion. And just like the other chords I showed you, there's a grace note for this chord. It's an option. You don't have to use grace notes for every chord, but I'm just showing you if you were to use it, how to use it, but it's used a lot over this chord as well to the keys. Okay. And you can also, let me tell you something else. In your left hand, you can also play a power chord in your left hand, okay? Now, whenever you're playing this B flat major, I'm sorry, this B flat minor 7, I'm confusing myself. Okay, you can play B flat, F, and A flat. And this would be a power chord, okay? And then your right hand, just play the D flat major 7. And I'm not trying to confuse you, but like I said, in your right hand, you're thinking triads a lot of times, but it's still a B flat minor 7, okay? But you're playing a D flat major chord over the B flat, but it's still a what? It's a B flat minor 7, all right? All right, now you can add some grace notes to this chord, and what's the grace note? I told you already, it's the second. So off the D flat chord, what would the second be? Okay, it would be E flat. This is the 1, this is the 3, and this is the 5 of the D flat major chord. So the note that you're going to slide off of, or pivot, or hit right before you hit the chord would be that second, okay? Okay, and this is used off the B flat minor chord, okay? And let me show you the rest of the inversions. Same way, I showed you this before, but except you were playing a chord with it. It's the same concept, except for you're not playing that chord in your left hand. You're just playing the B flat power chord in your left hand. I'm sorry. So you play this as such. You play the D flat in your thumb, F in your middle finger, and A flat in your pinky in your right hand. Then you hit that E flat right before you hit the chord. Okay. The first inversion, same way. Play the F with your index finger, A flat with your middle finger, and the D flat with your pinky. And that frees up your thumb to actually do the flavorful little pivot or slider, wherever you would call, right there, okay? And the second inversion, same thing, but different fingering, but you're gonna pivot off this same E flat, okay? You put your thumb on A flat, middle finger on D flat, pinky on F. And that frees your ring finger up to pivot off of that note as well, okay? So you have this, you have this, you have this. Now if you're used to playing this track chord progression, okay, and that's one way to play one minor chord off a B flat. Let's get into something with a little more flavor. Let's add a 9. Okay, let's talk about the B flat minor 9. Let's go to the keys and take a closer look. Okay, will be this chord right here: D flat, F, A flat, and C. And you're playing B flat in your left hand, so you don't necessarily have to play any chord. So if you look at it closely, you have a B flat minor chord right here. B flat, D flat, and F. And then here's your 7th, and here's your 9. There's a number of different ways that you can play this chord. You can play it just like this, okay, with the B flat in your left hand, or you can play it even lower down here and play it like this. B flat in your left hand, D flat in your right, F, A flat, and C, okay? Okay, let's recap on that chord. Now I said, it's this right here. Now if you add one note to it, it'll give it a fuller sound. And it's actually, in the chord, it's a different voicing, but it gives it a fuller and a deeper sound. It's sweet. So all you have to do is you add the C down here, but you would still play it on top. So basically, the B flat minor 9 would sound just like this. Now, if you want to give it a little bit more flavor, all you have to do is add a grace note to it, and it gives it a little contemporary kick, I would say, to it, and it gives it a lot of flavor to it, okay? So what you would do is pivot off of this B flat or slide off of it. Hit it real quick before you hit the chord, and it'll be just like this. I'm not going to play my left hand so you can get a clear view. You're going to hit this B flat right before you hit the chord. Let me do it a little bit slower for you. Speed up. Okay, now let's add the left hand. Okay, now that's one chord, and there's many ways to voice this one chord as well. So we're going to go over a numerous different amount of chord voicings for this one chord. Let's go back to it. Okay, now this is another way to voice the chord. So now I showed you how to make it fuller. Now in your left hand, you're going to play B flat, C, D flat, and F. Okay? And in your right hand, you're going to play A flat, C, and F. Okay? And you're still going to pivot or slide off that B flat, right, and hit it right before you hit this chord in your right hand. The A flat, C, and F, hit it right before you hit it. Okay? Now this is how it sounds with the chord. Okay, that's this chord, this one voicing that you can use. Now let's get into another voicing that you can use. Okay, another way to voice this chord would be you would invert the chord in your left hand and play this inversion. Like I said, most of the time you're going to play the root of the chord in your left, and you're going to play some type of triad, okay? Now, the triad that you would play for a minor chord, and it's not always, but right now you're going to play a minor triad, and the minor triad is a F minor. Now, if you look at the chord once again that I just did, in your right hand, you're playing an F minor triad, okay? Now, the thing about this is you're going to pivot off the fourth, okay? For right now, for this inversion, you're pivoting off the fourth, okay? So that's just an example of the triad that you play in your right hand for this particular minor voicing, okay? Now let's move on to a different voicing, but this time you're going to play in a different inversion in your left hand, but it's still the same chord, okay? So in your left hand, you're going to play A flat, C, D flat, and F, okay? And it sounds like this. It's the same chord if you look at it. You're just moving the F from down here to up here. And you're moving the D flat up here too. So this is the chord, same chord. Now in your right hand, you're going to play that same F minor chord that you were playing down here. And you just changing the voicings, the same chord, but it sounds pretty sweet too. And you're still giving it that grace note. So, perfect example. Okay, you can take this chord and invert that same minor chord that you have in your right hand. And let's just do a different inversion and keep the same chord that you had in your left hand the same, okay? So, let's go. Okay. This is what you were playing before. Now just invert the chord up to this inversion, okay? And you'll play C, F, and A flat, but play C with your index finger, okay? And you're still going to slide off this same B flat, but it's going to be like this. Okay, now let's see how that sounds. Okay. First one. And you can even go higher than that too. Invert it up one more time. To the F, A, C to the root position. It just depends on the sound you want. Okay? Now Now that's that. Now the next chord I'm going to show you is a lot similar to the last one I just showed you. There's one slight difference, okay? So remember, I showed you this one. Okay, now instead of playing this F down here, you're going to play the E flat, which is the 11. So now it's a B flat minor 11. It still has the F in there, but I'm just showing you the B flat minor 11, okay? The same thing, okay? Notice we have the A flat major chord. Now another rule, just depending on what type of sound you're trying to get, is if you're playing a minor chord, you can play that. Whatever that seventh is of that minor chord is, that's the major chord that you would play in your right hand. So if you're playing a B flat minor 11, if you want to find that triad that we've been talking about so much, that for your right hand, you would figure out what's the seventh of that minor 11 or whatever minor chord that you're playing, and it's A flat. So basically, you're going to be playing A flat triads in your right hand. Okay? Okay, so just to start out, I'm going to show you the first one. A lot similar to the first one I showed you, that B flat minor chord. Okay, so let's go to the keys. Okay, in your left hand, you're going to have B flat, D flat, and F. And in your right hand, you're going to have A flat, C, and E flat. Okay? Okay, this is the chord. And this E flat carries the melody. On the other one, the F carries the melody. This is the new chord. Voicing. Okay? Now, the same thing that you did to make the other one fatter by adding that C below in your left hand, you can do that. And you can even add the E flat lower to fill the chord up. It sounds more open, but if you want to give it a fat, full sound, just add that C in your left hand and that E flat in your left hand as well, okay? So this is the chord before. Now you're going to add the C and the E flat. So now in your left hand, you're going to have B flat, C, D flat, E flat, and F, okay? So it sounds like this. Okay, sound doesn't sound too good right now, but once you add that triad in your right hand, it's going to sound a whole lot better. It's going to sound full and rich, okay? So in your right hand, you're going to play the A flat triad. A flat, C, and E flat. Okay, let's play them all together. Okay, and like I said, what's the rule for the triads? Okay, the rule is you always want to play the B flat right before, which would be the second. Whatever the second is of that triad, that's the note that you're going to hit first, okay, right before the chord lands. So in this case, the A flat is the chord, and you're going to hit the second right before it lands. B flat, you're going to hit it right before, the second before. Okay, it sounds like this. I'm doing it slow. Now it sounds like this. But you wanted to give it one quick sound. Let's see how it sounds with the chord. Okay, and you can also invert this up and take your left hand off of B flat and move the chord over to a different voicing, okay? And in your left hand, you can have D flat, F, A flat, and C. And in your right hand, you can have the next inversion of the A flat chord. Okay, the first inversion, okay? And the same rules apply. B flat is still the grace note, and you're gonna finger it. E flat with your thumb, A flat with your middle finger, and C with your pinky finger, okay? And it sounds just like this. Ooh, I slipped. Just like this, I'm sorry. Okay, it sounds more open. Okay, now, if you wanna give it another voicing, here's another one for you, okay? Just invert. You can invert your left hand as many ways as you can possibly think of. You can play like this, like this, like this, okay? Most of the time you're going to stick with these three, okay? Depending on the sound you want. So you can keep that same A flat triad in your right hand, the same inversion, the first inversion, and just go to a different version of the B flat minor 9 in your left hand, okay? But it's 11 because you're adding that E flat. But that's when you play the right hand chord. So when you put them all together, it is a B flat minor 11th, okay? But in your left hand, you're gonna play D flat, F, A flat. So basically for this next inversion, you're just gonna move that chord to the next inversion in your left hand. So before you had this in your left hand, first it was this, and it was this. Now we're gonna move it over one more time. Okay, it's the same chord. You just invert it up. You have A flat, C, D flat, and F, okay? Now you're gonna keep that same chord in your right hand. The A flat first inversion, and you're gonna slide off that B flat. Okay, so now you're gonna play this in your left hand, and you're still gonna play that A flat chord in your right. And you're gonna be crossing over just like this. Your thumb is gonna cross over the thumb. So your right thumb is gonna cross over your left thumb, okay? So your left hand is gonna be like this, and your right hand is still gonna play the E flat, okay? All right? And you can still pivot off of it, okay? So we had this one, okay? We had this one, and you can play it like this too. Just depending on the sound you want, if you want it more open, voice it like this. It just really depends on you. I'm just giving you a lot of different inversions for you to mess around with for the same chords, okay? Okay, I'm just giving you a lot of inversions to mess around with. So it's really up to you how you use them. That can be used for pretty much whenever you're on that bass note. If it's minor, you have all these options of chord voicings to use, okay? And now another chord that you can do off the B flat is commonly used to go from the 2 to the 5, okay? So basically, this is the chord right here, okay? In your left hand, you have D. In your right hand, you have A flat, D flat, and G flat, okay? So most likely, you're used to seeing this chord voiced like this, or like this. It's the same chord, it's just voiced differently, okay? Like, you know, that chord progression. Okay, so the notes, you can change this up and you can voice it like this too. Okay? You're just adding that B flat in there, and actually, the B flat is in the bass, so, you know, you're just changing the voicing of the chord. So B flat is already in the chord because it's in the bass. So once again, this is another way. So now you have D, A flat in your left hand, and in your right hand you have D flat, G flat, and B flat. Now you can go even further than that and play a G flat major triad in your right hand, and every single note is still in the chord. You're just changing the voicing once again. So now you have D, A flat, D flat in your left hand, and in your right hand you have G flat, B flat, and D flat. You have a G flat triad, okay? And remember what I said about the sliding, pivoting, or whatever you want to call it. It's always off the second note. So basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the second, okay? If you know your major scales, okay? So you can invert it. So basically, that's used to get to that E flat, okay? Now the next chord I'm going to show you is off of B flat, and it has more of a bluesy type of sound because it's not major, but it has a dominant 7th in there. Okay, now the dominant 7th is A flat, and it's dominant because it's not minor. You're playing the 3rd is major, okay? And the difference between the dominant 7th is instead of playing this is a major 7th, you would play A, and we're still off of B, so okay. If you think about the B flat scale, the A is major. Now if you want to find out what a dominant 7th is, you flat that 7th. And that gives you a more bluesy sound. Okay? That's the dominant 7th. Okay, so the chord I'm going to show you is a commonly used passing chord, okay? There's a number of ways you can voice it. I'm sure you've heard it before. A lot of people play it like this. Okay, this is the absolute simple way to play it. Okay? Now, let me break it down for you. to give it a fuller sound, you know, we're getting into two-hand chords, so I'm going to break it down in a two-hand chord voicing for you, okay? Now, the left hand, you're going to be playing D and A flat, okay? And then your right hand, you're going to be playing a triad, which will be C, E, and G, okay? Okay. Now, I've thought of a number of different ways for every chord that I learned, I tried to figure out a way to help me remember. So whenever I'm off the B flat and I want to go to that type of sound of chord, I would play a tritone on my left hand, okay? And then in my right hand, I would say, okay, it's going to be a triad. So what triad would I play? Okay? The triad is a C triad. So okay, C will be the second tone in the B flat scale. So I think about it like that. Since we're off the B flat, what would the second tone of the B flat scale be? It would be C. So that's the major chord that I would play, would be the C chord. So, and if, I'm sorry if I lost you on what a tritone was, you should know that too as well if you've studied theory, but a tritone is basically the third and the flat seventh. So off of B flat, the third would be D, and the flat seventh would be A flat. And that's a quick way for me to remember every tritone. So all you would play in your left hand would be D and A flat. That's a B flat tritone. And then your right hand, you play that C triad. So, and you can also pivot off that. Which one would you pivot off of? You just take a wild guess. You would pivot off the D. It's the second note in the C scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Okay? That's just a different voicing that you can use. Okay? So, you can invert this different ways, and if you want to give it a fuller sound, you would add the G down here, okay? So, instead of playing like this, you can play it like this too. And you can also invert the chord too. Right hand. But for the most part, your left hand is going to be playing this chord. Okay? Now, this could be used as a passing chord in like a 2-5-1, okay? 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 Passing chords to get to the A flat. Okay, the next chord I'm going to show you is a lot similar, and just to reiterate, just to back up a little bit, this was the last chord we left off on, okay? You can invert it. Okay, this chord is a lot similar, and really it's a passing chord used to get to the E flat too. This is the chord. It's off of B flat. In your left hand, you're going to keep that same chord, right? You're going to play the D, G, A flat, and you're going to play the C. And in your right hand, you're going to play almost the same chord, but you're leaving out that A flat, okay? You're going to play D, G, and C, okay? And it sounds like this, okay? And it's used to get to the E flat. We haven't got to the E flat yet, but I just wanted to show you how it works. Okay? Okay, here's an example of how to use that last chord I just showed you. This one, okay? So most of the time it's used to get to the E flat. This one right here. Or the other one. Okay, let me show you the last one. This one. Okay. This next one I'm going to show you is also off of B flat. It is a B flat 13, okay? Now, okay, in your right hand, you have A flat, C, E flat, and G. And of course, you have B flat. Now, there's a number of different ways that you can play this chord too. okay? You can voice it like this. You can play E flat, G, A flat, and C. I might be going too fast. Let me slow down for you. E flat, G, A flat, and C, okay? Now, you can play this a number of different ways, like I said. You can play it like this. You can add the E flat, try it in your right hand, okay? And that's off of B flat too as well. You can use this chord as a passing chord to go to the last one I showed you if you do it really, really quick, okay? Let's see. That's off of B flat. Okay? And of course it would go to the E flat, back to the A flat. Okay, to recap before we move on, basically, I'm going to spell this chord out for you one more time. Okay, I went kind of fast. I want to make sure you got it. In your left hand, you're going to play E flat, G, A flat, and C. And then your right hand, you're going to play that E flat major triad, E flat, G, and B flat, okay? And you always can pivot off of that second. Okay, this next chord that I'm going to show you is also off the B flat. It's a lot like the B flat 13th, but the only difference is you, instead of playing the E flat, you would play the D. So actually, you're leaving out the 11, okay? You drop. So basically, you're just lowering that E flat to D, okay? So this is another chord that you can use to get that sound, basically to get back to E flat to A flat in like 2-5-1 chord progression. Going from the D flat to the E flat to the A flat, okay? Going from the B flat to the E flat to the A flat, okay? All right, so, okay, this is the last chord and final chord for B flat. It's a crazy chord that you can play. It has a lot of dissonance, and let's get right into it, okay? The left hand, you're gonna play B flat, F, and A flat, okay? Power chord, left hand. D flat, F, A flat. And in your right hand, you're gonna play D, excuse me, I'm sorry. B, D, E, and G. Sounds weird, huh? Now, considering the fact that we're in the key of A flat, a lot of the notes that are in this chord are not even in this key, so that's why it has a lot of dissonance, and it's one of those chords that will catch you off guard. You know, they're hard to hear and pick out, and it's like an altered chord. So if you look at it once again, left hand, you have B flat, F, and A flat, a power chord. Your right hand, you have B, and we're still in the key of A flat, even though we're on the second tone of the scale. And look, as you can see, B is not in the key of A flat. D is not in the key of A flat. E is not in the scale or key of A flat, but G is. So it has a lot of dissonance. And it's one of those crazy chords that you use to get to the 5. Back to the 1. So it's a chord to get back to the A flat, to the 1. That's it for B flat. We finally made it past the second scale. I hope you're writing all these chords down. I have a whole lot more in store for you. And it's going to get even better because once we get past learning all of these chords, I mean, it's so many chords that I got to show you. But once we get past all of these chords, we're going to get into chord progressions. And that's where the real fun is going to begin because you're going to learn different ways to place these chords and use them in songs and different parts of the service. So we're on to the next key. Let's get urban. Okay, we finally arrived to the third tone on the scale. I know it seems like a long journey because I'm like, It took us a long time to get here, but we finally made it. I hope you're staying with me. I hope you are understanding everything that I'm showing you, because at this level, pretty much I'm just adding to what you already know and just showing you how to voice different chords that you already know and enhance them and give it flavor, okay? So we're at the third tone in the scale. So most of the time on the third tone in the scale, it's going to be minor. And since we're on C, the most basic chord that you can play over C would be an E flat chord. And this would make this chord C minor 7, because you have the 7th in here, and like I said, you don't have to play the C in the chord. So this is the C minor 7, and the same rules apply to this as well. Since you're playing an E flat triad, you can still slide off that one note, which would be the F. So you can slide off that F right before you hit the chord. That's always the rule. So when I say slide off of that note, that would mean you would hit the note right before you hit the chord. So really quick. And I've said this over and over and over and over and over and over. So I hope you get it now. So basically when I say slide, just hit that note. And I'll tell you what note to slide off of, but that's what you would do. Okay, so you can also invert this chord as well. And the next inversion would be the first inversion. G, B flat, and E flat. The first inversion, the root one was E flat, G, and B flat, okay? First inversion, G, B flat, and E flat. Second inversion, B flat, E flat, and G. And you're gonna pivot off that F every time, so, or slide off that F. Okay, this is this inversion, the root one. That's how you would slide off the F with the second finger on the G, third finger on the B flat, fifth finger on the E flat. You slide off that F, and then the third one, you would slide off that F again with the ring finger. So play the thumb on the B flat, middle finger on the E flat, pinky on the G. And you slide off of that, okay? So another inversion, or not inversion, another voicing. I'm just used to saying inversion because I've been showing you so many inversions, okay? But another voicing that you can play for a C minor, let's go to a 9. Now this is a C minor 9, okay? And a lot of the chords that I'm getting ready to show you are the same exact ones that I showed you off of the B flat, if you look at it. If you take this down, half steps, I showed you these same chords off of B flat, okay? So a lot of the chords that I showed you off of B flat, just take them up to C because they're minor. And you can use all the same exact voicings for the minor chord, so I'm going to take you through this really fast. Basically, if you want to give this fuller sound, add that D, okay? So add that second, and it gives it a fuller, deeper sound. Same thing like we did off the B flat, if you look at it. Remember that? Okay. Just add that D. And it gives it a fuller sound. So the chord is C, D, E flat, G, B flat, and D. And you would pivot or slide off the C to D. Okay? And this could be used as a passing chord from the C to the F to B flat. Okay? All right, so here's another way to voice this same chord, okay? Okay? You still have, in your left hand, you have D, E flat, and G. And in your right hand, you have B flat, D, and G. And you're pivoting off the C to the D, or sliding. Remember this? So we're just moving this G down here. So pretty much, if you look at this, if we take it down half steps again, the same chord that we learned off of B flat. add the C if you want to as well. But most of the time, if a bass player is playing the C, you don't have to play it unless you want to, you know. It depends on the type of sound that you're trying to get. And you can also invert the chord in your right hand as well. So if you look at it, it's a G minor chord. So you can just invert it. Okay? So basically, the key is the left hand, and you can invert the right hand. Okay? So you can either play it like this, or you can play it like this. Move your right hand over to the next inversion of the G minor chord, and then play E flat, G, B flat, and then in the right hand you play D, G, B flat, and then you still slide off the C. Okay? And that's off of C. Another way you can voice this is play this chord in your left hand, E flat, G, B flat, and D, and in your right hand, still play the G minor chord. B flat, D, and G. B flat, D, and G. And you're still sliding off this C right here, okay? Okay, that's off of C. Okay, now we've arrived to the C minor 11, and it's a lot similar to the last chord I just showed you. Okay, let me show you. The last chord we just played was this. Okay, now the only difference about this is you're adding the 11th, which would be F. Okay, so now you have this. Okay, C minor 11, C minor, there's the 7, there's the 9, and here's the 11. Okay, there's a number of different ways that you can voice this chord as well. You play it just like this. You can add the 11th down here, and that will be C, E flat, F, G, B flat, and D. So in your left hand you have C, E flat, and F. In your right hand you have G, B flat, and D. Now, just like the last one, to make it a lot fuller, you can add that second, and it gives it a fuller sound. Okay, you see? So now you have C, D, E flat, and F in your left hand. Then you have G, B flat, and D. And you can add that slide in this chord off the C to give it that West Coast feel. Check it out. Okay? And if you notice, remember I told you, if you wanted to find the triad for your right hand, all you have to do is find the flat 7th of this C, okay? Or whatever minor chord that you're playing, just find the flat 7th, and that's how you find the triad for your right hand, okay? Let's look at the keyboard, okay? This is C, and this is the flat 7th of C. This is the major 7th, this is the flat 7th. So, the major chord that you will play in your right hand will be a B flat chord. So, you can take this and invert it and change the voicing around to give it whatever type of sound that you would like. And you would still play, you can play C, D, E flat, F, and G in your left hand. Okay? C, D, E flat, F, and G. And in your right hand, you can just play that B flat triad. And that's still the C minor 11. Okay? Now you can take this and voice it another way as well. You don't have to play the C, or you could just play the D. Okay? And let me just show you a little trick, the same one that I showed you off of B flat. So if you play it like this, you can just do this, a little trick with your left hand. Okay? And you're just walking down a D. Or like this. change the voicing. Here's a different way you can voice it. All you have to do is invert that B flat chord to the first inversion, and it'll sound like this. Just play E flat, G, and B flat in your pinky, and then your right hand just play the first inversion of that B flat chord. But remember, the rule is when you play the first inversion, most of the time you're going to start with your index finger on the first note of that inversion, okay? So your index finger is going to be on the D, and then your third finger is going to be on the F, and your pinky finger is going to be on the B flat, and that always frees your thumb up to do that slide off of that second note. Remember I said, most of the time you're going to slide. If you want to get that feel, it's going to be off that second. Okay? So let's look at it again. Your left hand, you have E flat, G, and B flat. And then your right hand, you have the first inversion of that B flat major chord. So it sounds like this. And that's if you're playing with a bass player and you guys end up going to G. Okay? That's how that would sound.